Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education University, and I'm your host, Tim Bogans. Now, as we move into the summertime here, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of look back, reflect on everything that we did over the past year and a half. It's been a grind. It's been a struggle for sure, for all of us. And I think it's important that we take the time to kind of take stock on how we're feeling, how we're doing with everything, reflect on how we're feeling about teaching and how we're feeling about just kind of life in general. And hopefully everyone can take the time to do that, spend some time thinking about that, and spend some time figuring out what they need for themselves, what they need to be able to put themselves into a position where you can go back in the fall, when you can be ready to teach, or at least a little bit more ready to teach. So today I want to talk to Sarah Krajewski. She's been on the show a lot before, and she and I usually end up talking about mental health and just sort of how we're feeling, how we're processing things, how we're getting through everything that's going on. So I'm hoping to do that with her today. I want to catch up with her first of all. She had a really cool drive-through art show that she did. If you remember an episode a while back with Lindsay Moss, Lindsay and Sarah collaborated on how they're doing that from a couple states apart, and put together some really cool shows. So I want to hear from Sarah as far as how that went, whether it was worth it, and all of those things that kind of go along with that. But more importantly, I just kind of want to, like I said, take stock of how we're both feeling, what we're doing to sort of help ourselves, and how we can reflect on everything that's happened over the past year and a half or 2 years, how we're gonna kind of come out of it, and maybe some changes that need to happen either in our own lives, in how we think about school, and how we do what we're going to do this fall. So, I am going to bring on Sarah now, and hopefully, we're not going to have answers to these questions, but I hope that, our reflections and our conversation can help sort of guide you as you think about some of these things as well. All right, Sarah Krajewski is joining me now. Sarah, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Great, Tim. Thanks again for having me. I love doing podcasts with you.
Well, I love having you, so this is going to work out great. We are approaching the start of the next school year for you, but I want to talk about the end of last year and just kind of catch up on everything.
Oh, yes.
I know you kind of collaborated with Lindsay Moss on planning each of your respective drive-through art shows. Mm-hmm. She came on the podcast and talked to me about that. It was kind of before the fact, though. So just sort of looking back on it, can you talk about your drive-through art show? Like, how did everything go for you?
Yeah, first of all, I will never forgive Lindsay for making me do that. No, just kidding. It really was a great experience, but it was such an interesting one because even though there was a much smaller event outcome than our typical huge school-wide art shows, right, it was as much work or more work. It was insane, but it was also really rewarding because we haven't had celebrations for this year in so long, and the kids just needed something. So to kind of recap, Lindsay Moss works for the Art of Ed, and she was telling me about how she had this idea to do something for the kids, something for the end of the year. So we always have an art show and just couldn't actually make it happen. So she was telling me about how she was going to get these huge 4x8 foot panels of wooden boards, get artwork on them, set them outside, do kind of this drive-by situation, and let the kids just, see their artwork and celebrate with their families. So I did something very similar. So it was nice because having Lindsay even states away just to kind of bounce ideas off of was really great because, again, I am the only art teacher in my school, the only elementary art teacher in my district. And though I can connect with a lot of people, there's not anybody that's doing this in my area. So we would meet often and just say, okay, where'd you get your wood? How many can you fit on that piece? How are you going to set this up? So I have a lot on my Instagram if you want to see a little more about it, or on my YouTube, there's kind of like an overhaul of the show if you want to check out what that looks like. But the show was really awesome. So we had a board for every single homeroom in our entire class.
Oh my.
So that was...
How many is that?
It's 22 boards.
Oh my.
I know. But honestly, I think that's one of the things that made it so successful was I teach pre-K through 5th grade. And if we did the same project with every class, every grade level, then we would have 6 projects, which is amazing. And of course, and nobody was expecting anything from me this year, but I wanted to really give each classroom a moment to shine. So each class did a different project. And then we did kind of a themed board, and we had, two sweet 5th graders that put on their art club shirts from 2 years ago, and they handed out programs at the beginning of the line, and gave out free bookmarks. And then we made a YouTube video with a link, like a little QR code on the front of the program, so that parents and families and community members that came through just scan the QR code, and then they listened to the YouTube video as they went through the show.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah, and that video honestly took me as long as the art show, because I put a lot of time into that too. I was like, as I'm editing, I'm like, what am I doing to myself? But we do it for the kids. It's fine. So we had audio of a bunch of students in every homeroom talking about their project. They also did a music performance because they couldn't have their music show this year. So I coordinated with my music teacher, and she recorded all of their music performances, and then I kind of like overlapped that over their audio and then had their music. So it's like every class had a music performance and audio of them talking of their work. So that was a really cool part. But the drive-through art show was amazing, but also like
exhausting.
Yeah. And when I agreed to do it 4 months before the end of the year, of course, you're like, you know what? We're cruising. We're going to make it happen. It's fine. But there's something about the end of the year this year that was an added level of exhaustion and like this, I need to be done for a bit. If I'm being honest. Yep.
That was actually going to be my next question. Is just part one, how did the rest of the year go for you after the art show? And then second, like, how are you feeling when the year was finished? Was it a sense of relief, a sense of accomplishment, like, hey, we did that, or something else entirely?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I still feel like I'm not done with the school year, just because and I don't know if anybody else is feeling this too, but I feel like my brain capacity is just so much lower than it has been.
Yes,
it's like, forget what I'm saying in the middle of a sentence, or I am like, what is my to-do list for today? I'm like foggy, and I'm just, so that part of all of the things that have happened in the past year was a definite struggle for me at the end of the year. And one of the podcasts that actually made me sort of just come to terms with that and accept the fact that, like, it's okay. Everybody's changing. Everybody's, feeling that and feeling that exhaustion, and that there's not something wrong with you. It's just that, like, it was a very hard year and draining in its own way. So there was a podcast I listened to that reminded us that we're all changing at a physiological level. And of course now, this is the physiological level, is that I can't even remember what it's called. But I will remember, and I'll tell you. And it was, the podcast was led by 2 psychologists, and they just talk about what is happening in our brain through the isolation, through this year, through, not just having to take a step back from the social cues of humans. So I guess all that to say, I was feeling it a lot at the end of the year. It was really hard, and I'm 2 weeks into my summer, or just a little bit into my summer, and I still feel like I don't really know how to relax or be, so I'm hoping that I'm going to try to just keep working on that and give myself some permission to be productive, but also not, and and just to know that there's nothing wrong with me or humans or whatever for just kind of being weird and out of it.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually what I want to talk to you about next, because I know you're really reflective about mental health. You think a lot about that. And, we've talked about it on this podcast before. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious about, I guess, 3 different situations, just with regard to mental health. Like, what did you do mental health wise to get yourself through the end of last year? Mm-hmm. What are you doing this summer? I mean, I know you just mentioned a little bit about that, but then also, like, what are you thinking about for the fall? Like, do you have any strategies in mind to help yourself when it is time to go back to school?
Yeah, great question. And things that I'm thinking about constantly. So, first one was, what did I do at the end of the year?
Yeah, end of last year.
Yeah, so in about January of last year, I did start doing some bullet journaling, and mm-hmm. I wasn't doing as much like flow of free-flowing journaling of like my thoughts and feelings, but was kind of just keeping track of, when did I get to school for the day? What do I have to do? Do I, what classes do I have? What's my to-do list? Like, kind of just in a more daily setting, so that I could really understand what how the days passed, right? Because even in the school routine, I was feeling like it was just kind of like everything's a blur.
Everything runs together.
Oh yeah, even more so than it had. In a normal year, you're kind of like running on fumes at times, but this year you're just like, what is it? Something's off, something's different, right? So having that bullet journal, having the ability to just mark each of my days, tracking a couple things here and there, and kind of editing each week, I would just write my weeks out, and I changed the format weekly. So it was like, what do I need this week? Do I need to write mantras down? Do I need to track like a bunch of things? Like, am I working out? Did I take a walk? What's the weather? All of these things to make me feel like I'm paying attention to what's around me. Or do I need to simplify it a little bit? So that bullet journaling was helpful for me. And that kind of will transition me into what am I doing right now, right? So I'm still continuing with my journaling, but I'm limiting all the things that I'm keeping track of to just essentially like 4 main things. So I track my physical wellness. Did I do any type of movement, walking? And granted, not giving myself a hard time if I've fallen off. I've had a busy week this week, so I haven't done as much as I've wanted to do, and that's okay. But trying to move my body a little bit and feel good about that. Tracking like, what I'm eating, so I can kind of just like see, okay, do I feel healthy? Am I having enough vegetables? Those kind of things. It seems silly, it seems simple, but like that, those are things that are important to me this summer.
Yeah.
And then also meditating every day. So I've been using the Calm app, and I do a meditation as many days as I can. I'll miss one here or there, but I'm really trying to prioritize my mental health as a job, right? Mm-hmm. This summer, and saying taking care of me is my job, right? I'm not an art teacher this summer. I'm not doing summer school. I'm not making lessons. I'm not writing my curriculum. I'm just trying to be and heal. And then I said the 4th thing, because there's 4 things that I track, was a gratitude list, essentially. Yeah. But and we, my husband and I, watched the show Big Mouth, which, just a spoiler alert, it is inappropriate at times.
Not appropriate for families.
Not appropriate. Well, maybe you leave that up to your judgment. It's not an appropriate show, but it is actually quite amazing, because they talk about mental health through the eyes of a middle school kid, essentially. So they'll talk about all the things a middle schooler thinks about in a very open and somewhat disgusting way at times, but one of the things that we took from that was a little creature called the gratitoad. And the gratitoad is this little frog, and he just says, "Why not be happy?" And he's got this southern accent, and he wants you to look for the things that make you happy. So I have like a little toad icon in my bullet journal, so that I can write down the things that I'm grateful for the day. But again, definitely, if you want to watch Big Mouth, that's fine. But it is kind of fun, because they essentially make a lot of the mental health things that people struggle with into characters, so that you can understand them. Like, depression is a cat that like sits on you and just presses you down. Mm-hmm. Anxiety is mosquitoes, and these mosquitoes just buzz around you, and they're in your ears. And it's just very interesting. So if you're just forewarning, pre-watch that show first, my friends. But I'm a big fan. So, so those are the things in my bullet journal that have helped. Did I miss the last one too? I've been talking forever.
No, that's okay. 'Cause, I'm just thinking of like, are any of those ideas things that you think you will take with you into the school year?
Yeah,
coming up.
I think so. I mean, a lot of what I'm noticing is, I mean, I always talk to my kids about their mental health. You know, as much as I can, I try to, and I, read them my book about anxiety and depression and things like how those feelings are real and okay, and they can make us strong. But I also am really inspired by and continue to be inspired by, again, especially Jonathan Jervich's SEL podcast, because there's so much information in there about how to support kids in their emotions, in their learning, in their check-in, in their awareness. So a lot of what I guess this is where I'll work as an art teacher a little bit, but I'm hoping to do some things like incorporate a little bit more vocabulary about being aware and regulating yourself and trying to see how you feel for the day, and if there's something that's out of your control, can you sort of refocus and understand that a little bit. So certainly my own focus on my mental health and gratitude and my check-ins and stuff too, that is something I hope to incorporate in some way into my classroom to be able to just bond with my students. How are you guys doing? And not just like, oh, I'm good, but like, how are you doing?
Yeah. Well, two things. I've been, I'm a producer on Jonathan's podcast, so listen to all of those a lot. But a couple things that I take away from that is when his guests come on, he's like, give me a word as to how you're feeling. But that word can't be good.
Yes.
And so, you have to think. And I think that's something that can transfer to the classroom. And then, at the end of every episode, he's got 3 takeaways that give you just literal concrete ways to like take those ideas into your classroom, or to just help yourself with some of the concepts. Totally. And so I think if these are ideas that you want to explore more in the classroom, I honestly can't recommend those episodes highly enough. They're amazing. And
I'll even just to help further push that up the podcast a bit. So my mom is a middle school teacher in the same district as me, and we've been talking a lot about trauma and healing and what our expectation will be for teaching our students next year. And we're very prepared to, prioritize SEL more so than we ever have before, right? And what does that wellness of our students look like to welcome them and give them that support? So she's reading a book all about like trauma-informed teaching and what kinds of things go with that. And she's going to gather materials and tell me what she learned. And I said, well, I have this podcast I'm going to listen to that's technically made for art teachers, but it's all about SEL. And I started listening and I said, Mom, this is for every teacher. Yeah. Yes, there are snippets of art education in it, of course, to tie it back to us. But I'm like, 2 episodes in and I'm like, Mom, you and everybody else needs to listen to this. So I love too that it's for educators and parents and people alike to just help support our kids and ourselves. Yeah,
for sure. And then last question for you. I hope I'm not prying too much, but as you kind of think about the upcoming school year, like, how are you feeling about it? Like, are you wanting to go back yet? Are you looking forward to it, or are you still, you think it's going to be a little while before you're ready to go back?
Yeah, great question as well. And if I'm being honest, I need time still. I do. I always work hard. I always do more than I probably should. And I am feeling I'm being honest, I'm feeling myself burnt out. And I never thought I'd say that. And I get it now. I get what our teachers feel like, where they say, I'm just so burnt out. I'm just so exhausted. And I think that I need to, use that support of the art teacher community. And I'm excited to teach. The nice thing is I still love being in my classroom. I still love being with my kids. I love making art, but it is exhausting to a point of, recognizing like, okay, this, you need some time. You need to sort of like be able to say some no to some things. So, some stuff that I know is going to help me is, taking a look at what I was doing pre-pandemic, right? Of course, that's like how we talk about time now, right? It's like, oh, pre-pandemic, post, whatever. But, some things that I was doing, like, I was doing a lot of like online portfolios and art club and art shows and getting art into the community. And while all those things are incredibly beneficial and things I'm passionate about, I think it's okay to step back and say, you know what, I'm going to pick 2 of those. And the other things are going to have to just wait. And maybe I'll incorporate them later, but I need to be here for my students and for myself. And no can be a complete sentence. So I am excited for next year. I do have a lot of really amazing ideas. Already thinking about the art show. I'm like, not drive-by art show, but I have a super great idea that I'm really psyched about. So I'm looking forward to that. Here, I can even give you a plug. Y'all can send me ideas on my Instagram. But I want to do an eco show. So I want to be all about like recycled art, art outside. We have so many things we've been collecting, and I want to like make the entire show all about like reusables. I'm just super psyched about it. So I am excited to return. But I also am, need time.
Well, and I think it's okay for both of those things to be true. Like you can have great ideas, you can be excited to go back, but still not quite be ready for it.
Yeah. So, and I think the best way that that it's been phrased to me was that whether you felt it or not, we've all had different forms of trauma, especially this past year, whether it's emotional, physical, it's been trauma and traumatic in a different way than I think a lot of us have ever been, around. Yeah. So typically a summer, art teacher or teachers in general will say, oh, it's time to refresh, recharge. But I'm not even using those words as much as I am healing. So think about when you're traumatized, you need to heal. You need to repair your wounds. You need to give yourself time and love and energy. And so I think I'm really trying to use that word is that this summer, and even as I go into next year, I'm just going to try to give myself time to heal and try to help heal my students and my staff and my family.
No, that's awesome. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. I appreciate how open you always are. I appreciate the conversation, and hopefully it's helpful for everyone. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to chat.
Thank you so much to Sarah for coming on. I always appreciate my conversations with her. I always appreciate how open she is about everything that, she is going through, everything that she is thinking about, and all the things that she's doing to help herself. And so, like I said in the beginning, I hope that conversation can help you as you're kind of taking stock of where you are right now and what you need at this moment. Now, before we wrap up, I want to tell you about one other thing that I think may be helpful. We have been publishing over the past couple months a brand new podcast called The Art of SEL. It's all about social and emotional learning. Jonathan Jervich is hosting that show. It has been incredibly popular, incredibly well received. If you've been curious about the show but have not listened to it, I would definitely encourage you to check it out. Wherever you get your podcasts, just look up The Art of SEL, and it's an 8-episode limited run series all about the importance of social and emotional learning and the role that art teachers can play. And not only does it talk about how we can help our students, but how we can help ourselves as well. There are a lot of really great takeaways, a lot of really powerful conversations, and I think it's definitely worth a listen. So wherever you get your podcasts, go check out The Art of SEL. All right, and that will do it for us this week. Another thank you to Sarah for coming on. And like I said, I hope you take some time to take stock of where you are, figure out exactly what you need, and hopefully take some steps to do what you can and what you need to do to help yourself right now. Art Ed Radio is produced by the Art of Education University with audio engineering by Michael Crocker. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next week.